Hello everyone. So this is a quick tutorial on how to approach creating city thumbnails. So one of the things I think that's most important with any environment work, because environment work is very complicated, very complex. One thing I would highly recommend that you do is get as much reference material as you possibly can. Now, there's a number of different approaches that you could take to looking for your material. You could look up uh, specific types of places, cities built on islands, cities built on peninsulas, cities built along rivers or lakes, modern contemporary cities, something like that. You could just Google those and see what kind of images that you come up with. One of the things that I think is a little bit more fun to do, though, is to just go ahead and explore the world. So if you've got a copy of like Google Earth, I mean, Google Earth is free. You can look at any city in the world. And the nice thing is, as you look at those cities, you get these nice 3D views, especially if you're looking at them on your PC. Although you could obviously do this on your phone, and I have done this before. The nice thing about Google Earth is that you sort of already have a 3D city made up for you, and you you can sort of pick a spot that appeals to you, and then screen cap that particular spot. Now, when you're doing screen captures of cities on Google Earth, right, one thing that's important to know just right up front is that a lot of buildings have been trademarked or copywritten, or basically it's just illegal to go ahead and use the image of the building wholesale. So what you would want to do is make a bit of adjustment to the building when you are doing your final. How much of an adjustment? Typically 30% of an adjustment is probably the best way to go. Now, if you're worried about audiences taking a look at your stuff and going, wait a minute, I know that's the Sears Tower. Yes, the Sears Tower, not the Willis Tower. Or, oh, I know where we're at. This is Navy Pier, right? It might be because you're in Chicago, and if other people are from Chicago, are seeing that, they're going to be really familiar with some of the landmarks. So what you might want to do is pick a city that's far away, and give that a try. So one thing that I usually do is I tend to look at like European cities. So like if I look for Vienna, for example, Google Earth will take me there. Now, the problem, of course, with going to some of these other cities is you may not be very familiar with them. But one of the nice things about these satellite views is you can sort of get a good sense of, what might be kind of a boring area to go into and what might give you a little bit more um, visual interest, right? And by visual interest, I just mean, maybe a better way to say it would be visual contrast, right? So you have maybe some land to look at, maybe you have a building, and you can sort of figure out if you wanted to do something that was more of a bird's eye view, you can get a better sense of the layout and maybe even frame how you would like to set up your picture. Just take a snap of something like this, or um, you know, getting close to some of these buildings here. Let some of the detail populate here a little bit. And then you could maybe take a screenshot here, right? It doesn't have to be all of this complicated city background stuff. find yourself a high point, and then use it as kind of like an over-the-shoulder shot. But make sure that you're looking at something or an area that could be used in an interesting way, would be my recommendation. Of course, you can also, if you so choose, get in nice and tight. If you wheel in close enough, it'll actually put you in street view, and then you'll be in a position where you can actually look in any direction, obviously, on Google Earth. Now, obviously, you may not find anything that's particularly interesting about the street that you're on, but maybe that's okay. The nice thing is that you have a very, very wide variety of angles, and if you don't find what you're looking for, you can still click around and sort of explore. So it's kind of a neat way not only to find the right camera angle that you want to use, but also it's a kind of a cool way to just go out and explore the world a little bit, rather than just come up with a straight middle 1-point perspective shot right down the street. So in this case, I've already taken several shots. And obviously there's again a couple of different ways that you could approach this. You could just go ahead and if you wanted to do a sketch, right, you could just go ahead and take a look at them, and I would just do sort of a 16:9 sketch or a 4:3 sketch, something like that, and just take a look at the elements that you have. See if you can find something that you think might be interesting to make a drawing of, something with enough open space maybe that you could fill it in with something interesting, right? And if you are just kind of fried, it's very easy to just block in all of your buildings, right? When you don't have to worry about the perspective, it's kind of nice, right? You're free to get the broad strokes of kind of where things are at, kind of make notes about what you're seeing, right? And just being able to even trace some of this stuff helps make you more aware, I think, of kind of what you're seeing. And when you're just doing your sketch work, maybe that's all you need. You don't necessarily need to put every building in. Squiggly lines are fine for trees. Right. What I'll do eventually, like if this is the sketch that I choose to work from, I'll go back later and just take this very, very simple drawing, and I'll jazz it up a little bit and come up with some ideas for what might make it visually interesting. Right. When I'm done, I can just take a look at what I have. Some of these lines might be a little, confusing. So one thing that I sometimes do is I'll make a new layer. I'll just go underneath, and I will I usually, when I do a lot of building sketches, I use this zero block. So if you have the class sketch brushes, you can use that. Let's start with a darker gray. Just drop that in the background, and then you can maybe take a minute or two and kind of block in where you were seeing light. Where are the shadows? Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just making little marks like, hey, if the sun is coming in, this direction, it's going to cast a shadow onto this back building over here. Or hey, this is still a roof, something like that. Right. And what we're just checking for, right, is just to see like if this is even visually interesting enough that we could play around with it and have fun with it later. And that just takes a lot of the weight off of having to just randomly come up with something right off the top of your head, which is sometimes confusing and annoying and difficult. All right, so I've got some other sketches here, and I'll just go ahead and put this one in as a fourth. Right, so these can be just very, very loose, very, very loose. You shouldn't probably spend more than, a minute or two on any of them. Really, if you're going to do anything, put a little bit more time into doing your research and, kind of have fun with that. So we'll go ahead and leave it there. And then when we pick up next time, we'll start to make some more decisions on exactly what kind of architecture we want to have in our scene, and we'll start to flesh it out a little bit more clearly.